and welcome back to part 3 of our e-commerce application. So in the last two videos, what we have done is that we created the basic structure and then we created our first screen and we basically set up the designs according to that. In this video, what I'll do is that I'll show you how we can add more endpoints to this and fetch data from that. So for this specific video, the plan is to add the category section on top of the home screen. From there, user can go around and select different categories, and then based on those categories in the future we'll implement the filters. Okay, so to integrate an endpoint, the first thing is that you need to identify your endpoint, right? So let's say what I want is that if I get over here, what I want is that I want to get all categories over here, right? Like this. And how I am supposed to do that, you can see that I have this thing over here. It says products slash categories. So I'll just copy this. Okay, I'll just copy this over here, and now I'll get to my code, and to define anything in your app for in clean architecture, what you need to do is the first thing that you need to do is to define it in the abstraction, so that the both sections knows that there will be this kind of implementation available, right? So what I have to do is that I need to go to the network service class, and over here you can see that we have this function that is for products. Now I'll create another function that will say get categories, right? And then it will just return a result wrapper of list of strings. So this will not return anything else. Okay, so the get categories will be returned from here. And now once you mention it over here, you need to go to its implementation. So when you go to this implementation, it will start showing you an error that says that basically you need to define this. So what I'll do is that I'll implement that over here, right? Okay, so what we will do is that that we have the base URL set up. So I'll go for URL that equals to base URL.product.category, and this is going to be the same thing. So yes, that is done. Second thing that we need to do is that we'll make a request. Now, if you remember, in this above section, I added this mapper, and the reason for that mapper was to map the data models from our data modules to the models of our domain, right? Right now, in this specific case, we don't need that because we know that it's just a generic string class that we use. And so what we will do is that we'll define both sections to be list of string over here. We need to mention that what we need from you is string. So whatever coming from the backend will also be parsed into the list of string, and that list of string should be returned without any new mapping. So that's why I'm passing the mapper to be null, or if I don't pass the mapper as null, by default the value for this is also null, right? So what it will do is that it will get me the categories. So now the network service implementation is done. Now the next thing that I need to do is define a repository. So what I'll do is that I'll get to the domain section and I'll define another abstraction for that. I'll get over here and call it interface, and over here this is going to be category repository. Okay, and this section should have a suspend function that says get categories, and not this. It's going to be result wrapper and then list of string. Okay, now the category is repository is created, and now I'll go to the data section, and in this section over here what I'll do is that I'll go to the Kotlin class. I'll create a new Kotlin class and I'll call it category repository impl. Okay, and this is going to be a class. I guess I made a mistake. What I'll do is that category. Okay, and now this should extend this. Okay, And as you know, for our previous repository that we created, we need a network service over here as well. Okay, so I'll define that as well over here, and now it will ask me to implement that function, which is pretty straightforward. So I'll go network service dot get categories, and it should return that. Okay, now this is done. And since I created this new repository, I need to define it in the DI as well. So I'll go to this repository module, and over here what I'll do is that I'll go single, it's going to be category repository implementation with get. And also I need to define the domain level abstraction for that as well. So I'll call it as category repository. Okay, this will help me fetch based on the domain level interfaces. Okay, so this implementation for this is done. Repository has been created, and then repository network service is created. And now the next thing that I want is to create a Kotlin class and call it get categories use case. Okay, and over here this categories use case is supposed to have a repository, so I'll call it category repository like this. Okay, and now what I'll do is that I'll use this function to basically, this is just repository function that we call. Let's make it private as well. Okay, now this get category use case is there, and we need to go to our use case module, and for this what we will do is that we'll create a get category use case, and that is also going to use a get. Okay, so these two are done, and now we'll go to our home view model over here. Then over here what I'll do is that I'll add the private wall category use case. Sorry, use case is going to be category, sorry, it's get category use case. Okay, now we have this. Okay, and over here we have this success state. Along with this, what I'll do is that I want a category list as well for this. Okay, and this is going to be this, and this will start throwing me an error. So what I'll do is that I'll create another suspend function over here, and I'll call it get category. Okay, and then the category is basically supposed to, for success case it will list down the category, and for error case it will just create an empty list, right? And now what I'll do is that I'll call it categories is equals to get categories. Okay, and then the same condition will be applied, not for both should be empty, not one of them. I mean, if there is no data for any of this, this means that we need to show some sort of error to this, and then over here what I'll do is that I'll pass the category. Okay, right, so this is done, and now let's just implement the UI for that. Okay, so I'll get over to the home screen, and now this home content section that has this section, I want this to contain one more thing, and that is categories, and that's going to be a list of string. Okay, okay, so the categories should have a list of string. And now along with that, when we have this, I'll say if categories is not empty, what I'll do is that I'll create a lazy raw. I'll create a lazy raw, and then I'll go for items dot category, and then for category I'll just create a simple text, nothing fancy, like this. And what else do we need? Okay, so what I'll do is that I'll replace the first character to uppercase as well, and then we'll have style for body medium, modifier, padding. Before padding, what I'll do is that I'll use a clip and I'll call it round corner shape, and that is going to be a.dp, and then we'll have a background, and that background is going to be material team dot color scheme dot primary. Okay, I guess that's done. We also have to add some padding in the start as well. And now let's just run it and see if we are able to fetch the categories. So we should have a category section. Oh, it's saying that you need to pass on the categories as well, which is right. So I'll go data dot categories and now rerun it. Okay, yes, the home view model needs to be updated since now it contains two different kind of use cases. So we'll add get for both of them so that it can fetch them. Oh, this needs to be updated as well. And now you can see that we have this really cool. One thing that I don't know why the first character of that string should be capital, but I'm not sure why it's not done. We can fix that, but yeah, you can see that we have this section right like this. And now let's just fix that. Over here in this section where we have this lazy column, where was that? This is the header, this is the lazy row, right? And we need to add some spacer to it from top and bottom as well. And also let's just use it this way so that it just replace the first characters to capital. And now you can see it looks good, right? One more thing is that I want to change the font size, font weights to semi bold as well, and also the color should also be material dot on primary, which should be white, I guess. Now you can see that this looks much better, right? So we have this thing, the top padding is quite a lot, so we need to get rid of that, but other than that looks good, right? And now this looks like this. So okay, now this is done, this row section and this whole stuff is done. What next we need to do is that we need to fix that loading issue. This looks really bad because at least this information will be available at the start. So what we will do is that we'll add a loader just for this section in the screen so that it shows a loader over here somewhere, and then once the data is available it shows the data. If not, we'll go for something else. Okay, so how should we do that? Let's just say this home content takes one more variable, and that says is loading, and that is a boolean, and by default it's going to be false. Okay, this is the is loading section, and over here at the top level what I'll do is that I'll say wall loading is equals to remember mutable state of false. Okay, and I'll implement that. Now over here, rather than using this, what I'll say that loading dot value is equals to true. Okay, and for these what I'll say that loading dot value is equals to false, then loading dot value is equals to false. I'll do the same for error case as well. So I'll create another case and then I'll say error and for in this case error dot value is equals to false, error dot value is equals to false, and error dot value is equals to, sorry, not, you can create an empty, or you can call it a string with a null value. Okay, so in this case what we'll do that we'll say null. For success case it should also be null, and then for this case what we'll do is that, okay, and I'll call it error message. Okay, now this thing is done, and now over here in this home screen content, over here in the home screen content is that basically I'll call send the loading value as well as the error value, and we should handle this error value as well. Okay, now it is done, right? Now in this section, let's say if the loading is there, so what I'll say is that if is loading, what we need to do is that we need to create a box with the max width, a circular indicator with a modifier, maybe modifier dot padding, sorry, modifier dot size, and make it 50 dp, right? And rather than keeping it a box, let's make it a column. And horizontal alignment like this. Okay, fill max size column, and along with that we'll also have a text. Okay, and let's just say loading. Okay, this is for loading case. If error message, or you can call it this way, error message dot let, what we'll do is that we'll create a simple error message with this. Okay, I guess this should be enough, and now let's just run it and see how it impacts this case. In this case basically the at least the first step would not be going anywhere, and we'll see a screen. I guess there's just one more catch to do, and that is we need to create the lists as well. So what I'll do is that I'll create a wall featured products is equals to remember mutable state of an empty list. This is for featured. This another one is going to be popular, and the last one is going to be for categories. Okay, and over here what we will do is that we'll get it away from here, and inside this surface section we'll use this. Okay, but we'll use featured, popular, and categories. Feature dot value, popular dot value, and then categories dot value. Okay, and over here feature dot value is equals to data dot featured, feature dot, sorry, not feature, popular dot value dot most popular product, And last one is for categories, we'll define this. So now this should show me a proper loader once there is like nothing available. Now you can see it's saying loading, and then as soon as everything is done, it shows me this. So I guess this looks much better, right, than before, the way we had. And the next thing that I want for this specific scene is that I want a bottom bar like we have in the design. That's like this. We have this bar. We won't be using search over here because we already have the search section, so it looks like really weird. And then we'll have this cart section. This is going to be cart, and then after the cart we'll have this profile section. Okay, so let's just get started with that and create a home, like bottom navigation, right? So how do we do that? Okay, so to implement that specific section, what we need to do is to go to main activity, where basically we have this nav host prepared. And in this nav host, what I'll do is that I'll create a scaffold, and inside that scaffold, what we'll do is that we'll use this. Okay, and this is going to be over a surface that is also going to be like this dot padding dot. Okay, and now I'll get this from there and add it over here. Now this is done. The scaffold now requires me, like it can provide a lot of stuff, and one thing is that it can provide bottom bar stuff as well. Like we can add a bottom bar inside this, and now we need to do bottom app bar. But before creating a bottom app bar, I'll create a sealed class saying that bottom nav items, I guess. Let's call it items, right? And then you have these sections. One is home, one is cart, and one is profile. And now the next thing that I would like to do is that I'll create a composable that says function bottom navigation bar, and it takes nav controller as a parameter. Okay, and now over here what I'll do is that I'll say navigation bar, and let's say we need a current route, so we'll use the current route from the backstack entry. The next thing is that I need to create items that equals to list of these three nav items, right? And now for each item, what I'll do is that I'll call it navigation bar item. For selected, it's like if it's selected, and then okay, we need to pass icon as well. Okay, and for icon, what we'll do is that it's a composable, so we need a little bit of more enhancement into this. So what I'll do is that I'll create an icon section as well, and over here we'll create RC home. For this it's going to be IC card, and for this it's going to be profile. Okay, and since we don't have the IC home and IC card, so I'll export those. I'll export those switches, IC home. Then for this SVG IC card, and then for this I'll create IC profile BN. Okay, now in the drawable section I'll go over here and I'll create, like, import those icons that I created. So we have this profile, then we have this home, then we have this cart. Okay, and this icon is going to be used inside this. So what I'll do is that I'll call it an image, and then we'll see painter resource item dot icon, and this is going to be null. It should not be nullable, it should always be something. Okay, so we have these, and let's call it IC profile BN for this. And over here what we'll do is that we'll save state and restore state as well, so that we don't lose the like we don't have to recreate every time. Okay, now this is done. There is one more thing that I would like to do, and that is colors. So we'll go over here and then we'll see something like this. We'll create container color navigation bar defaults dot so basically navigation bar item default dot colors, and then inside the colors let's say selected colors, and we need to selected icon color, and then is going to be color scheme dot primary, or maybe it's because dot copy, and selected text color needs to be updated to primary as well. Then unselected text color is color dot gray, unselected icon color is also gray. So this way it will update the colors of that as well, right? And now go to the bottom section, and over here in the bottom nav bar what we'll do is that we'll just use this, right? And since we have these three different icons, home, card and profile, so let's just create composables for those as well, so that when we click on those they just doesn't crash. Card, and for profile it's going to be profile. For now let's just create a box with simple something like that, and then for profile we'll create this profile. Okay, and now run it and see. Now what we should do is that we have a bottom navigation bar over here, and clicking on one item, so yes, you can see we have this cool button. Then for cart we have this, for profile it has this. Somehow the color tint is not working, which is worrying, and the reason for that is because we are not using icons. So what we need to do is that we need to implement one more thing over here, and that is we need to implement the color filter, but that should be only done if it's sorry. So I'll say that if current route equals to item dot route, then use this, else gray. Now I guess when I do this, this will help. Now you can see when I click on gray, it basically changes the color as well. And for profile we get the profile, for card we get the card, and for this section we get this. So another step towards completing the app, we have this category section in place. We have the navigation set up as well. In the next video what we'll do is that we'll create the detail screen for that, and a detail screen and then adding items to the cart, and we'll see how it goes from there. So if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. So till then, happy coding. Goodbye.